reading process in terms of the fluency piece and then building rate. So we're not going to do speed reading because we know not all the children are even reading. We're, a full sentence yet. So it's going to be based on where our children are, which pieces of this pie will go right back into the classroom. And if nothing else, as adults, it will help our reading because there's too much to read now to keep up with everything. It's really, really
Yes,
crazy.
Noah, can you have you started recording this? No?
Yeah, I started.
Okay, now who else is joining us? It says, is Noah going to be with us, or I thought we have one more person today.
Yes, we have Dalia.
Who else was coming?
Dalia from Palestine.
Okay, yes, that's what I thought. Okay. And Lachen, is he coming today? Or he'll just check in?
No, he will just check in.
Okay, and what I'm going to do, I was debating whether to do a blog ahead or behind, and I decided to do it afterward. Plus, I was also busy and then a little under the weather this week. So either tomorrow or maybe the next day, I will be posting a blog on Twitter with the link here for those who didn't join us so they can follow.
Yes.
And
so here is the thing. So we will start the session, do a little introduction of our amazing educators from Tunisia, America, and Egypt, and then feel free to talk and to discuss any idea that you see in the presentation. I know that this is a co-teaching experience, but you can share your ideas about reading. You can ask a question. It's not only Rita talking; it's everyone.
No.
Or not only me. It's everyone participating. That's why we need this collaboration, right?
Absolutely. We're all co-teaching. There's a lot of varieties of what co-teaching stands for, and this is one. I'd like to introduce you to my granddaughter. Morgan's here. Sure, she helped me get it set up.
Hi, Morgan. Hello.
Hi.
She's my fifth grade tech expert.
She did a good job on recording the video.
We're getting better at it. Those little videos, I'm working on it. It's not my forte. Old dog learning new tricks.
She's really cute.
Oh, she's 10. She's fifth grade now. And I had the blessing to teach her after schools were out. I taught her. I didn't see my children for 8 months, and I lived 10 minutes away from them. So I actually taught her online on FaceTime, etc. And it was a glorious experience, but it's way better being in person than getting a big hug.
Yeah. So can you, let's try to share the PowerPoint presentation. Oh, okay. Okay, the slides are there.
Okay. Well, that's good. And of course, we are working with reading today.
So this is the text, and this is, oh yes, we.
Should we open the site? Keep it open?
Hello, hi Noah.
The sites? What do you mean the sites?
This site, yeah.
Yes, this Fatin, you can share this in the comments with people who would like to access the text.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have you have the PowerPoint presentation, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Before we go live, Fatin will share it with you.
That's
Good. So we will start.
Oh, did we flip that? We did flip it. Yeah. Okay. The KW. Oh, we wanted to flip the pre-teaching vocabulary with the KWL at the very end.
This?
Oh, yes. Before, like this.
That yes, and then we wrap up.
This should okay.
Yeah, that's correct. That's where we review the vocabulary we started with at the beginning, see which ones of those that they know. Then back to the KWL, and then we wrap and thank you. That's it. You've got it. We're done.
Okay, so Noah, can you stop sharing? Good. So before we start the session, I will introduce the topic as I do usually, and then the other educators can can introduce themselves or talk about their background, and then we
Okay.
can start the session. Okay. So the educator from Palestine, she sent me a message. She's joining now.
Thank you so much, Aziz, for everything while we're waiting. It's just been a pleasure working on this session.
Thank you.
This is our third session. If anyone else is listening, I don't know who's actually hearing this part of the recording. But our first session, we did comprehension. And the second webinar, we worked with vocabulary. And our third one, as you know, is on teaching children to read better and faster.
Yes, reading is really huge importance.
I like the background. I'd like to be there right now. That looks so pretty.
Thank you.
You're talking about Fatin's background?
Yes.
Yes,
My
there is a
background is kind of
garden.
boring.
There is a garden, there is water, there is good.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to can we go
Yes,
ahead and kind of
I-
start a little
Yes,
bit?
I started the live, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm ready when you are. I'm going to take a nice deep breath while I wait. I don't know whether you call that a technical difficulty. I hope that you're watching you
No.
sitting there.
It's
There's
not
a beautiful
technically-
face coming up.
Hi,
There we
Dalia.
go. I think it's amazing multicultural experience when people from all over the world can get together like this to share ideas. It's amazing. Well, I see a background and no person. There we go. Hello. Hello.
Oh, it's
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another online session. I am very excited tonight to start this new session on reading. Again, with our amazing educators from Tunisia. We have Fatin Abdelmalik, and from the United States, Rita Words.
Hello.
And also from Egypt, we have Noah Hatim and Dalia Saleh from Palestine. So welcome, everyone.
Hello, Aziz.
Thank you.
So tonight's session is
Welcome all.
hi. So tonight's session is this is actually the third workshop on reading, and as you know, we focus so much on reading because reading is a wonderful skill, and it keeps our mind grow, and it keeps our mind young and healthy. And it's really important to teach our kids, our students and learners how to read, how to be fluent readers. We will start the session, and the title of the session is teaching students read better and faster, hopefully. So feel free.
We will, I promise.
Yes.
Well done. We're off to a good start.
Yes, it's a challenge, but we will do our best. Yes, as you know. Before we start the session, I just want to remind the audience that the main objective of Bremen Academy is to bring educators together to share experiences and to exchange, classroom experiences, as I said, especially when it comes to reading, technology integration, and self-care for teachers and students. So welcome again, and let's get started.
Why don't we do that? Let's do that.
Yeah.
We're working with how to get kids to read better and faster. And that's an interesting topic. Most of the time, people would think of that just as the word fluency. And so we're going to expand that today. Yes, we want children to be fluent readers as we'll define it, but we also want to adjust our rate because rate affects our comprehension. And so today you're going to learn some practical and very unique, interesting things that will make a big difference, whether it's about teaching children in your classroom or your kids at home or others that you teach. And just for us, it will also improve our own reading to read better and faster. It's going to
Yes.
be really unique and great.
The sessions or the workshops are based on Rita's really very interesting and useful book, Reading
I'll give it a-
Champions Made Easy. So this is the book. So all the workshops that you see on the page are based on this book. It's really awesome. It's full of practical activities and ideas on how to teach reading efficiently and effortlessly. So let's get started. So sharing the PowerPoint. now.
Let's do it. There we go.
It's helping students read better, but it's okay. It's learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Aziz, please start.
Yes. So we all the time start with this awesome chart, the KW. You know that the KW is used by a lot of teachers everywhere. So maybe the first question, what do you know about fluency? This is a question directed to the audience who is listening now, and also to the educators and teachers here in the meeting. When we say fluency in reading, you can just type in the comment section what is the synonym of fluency, fluent readers, or fluency in general, reading fluency. And also, what do you want to know about this? What do you know and what do you want to know? We'll keep the L and W at the end. Right, Rita?
Yes. Okay, so why don't we just kick it off with our teachers, Aziz? Let's see what they thought. There's no right or
Yes.
wrong. It's just so we have some common language to share today.
Yes, I can start that it's the ability to read easily, efficiently, and without any problems. That's just a definition of mine.
Okay. Would anyone add to that? What else does it mean to be a fluent reader?
Well, I think it's the ability to read without worrying about a word that in a way that I don't know, and just continuing reading until I reach the end and get a whole guess the gist of what I read.
Exactly. Yes. There's no right or wrong. That's a wonderful answer response.
I think it is a skill. It's a skill, and we want to develop it step by step, and everyone thinks that fluency is very important for especially with our students. They feel it as a bridges between word recognition and the comprehension, like this.
Yes, exactly, exactly. For many years, people argued about what fluency meant. They used to say that it meant just an automatic decoding. It was called automaticity, the idea that all words were known and the reader would be able to smoothly, effortlessly, with expression, read the line of print. But there's way more than that to fluency, and it will develop into the notion of rate. All good readers, in quotes, adjust their reading rate based on the purpose of what they're reading. But when we have brand new budding readers, they're not at that point, and we wouldn't expect them to be adjusting rate like that. So that's a little farther down, and we'll get to that later in our webinar. So I think we should move on, Aziz, to the next slide. And there we go. So let's put together, what did we learn so far about fluency? This is what do we already know. Before we find out more, we always look at our schema or our background knowledge so we have something to hook it to.
So it is related to automaticity, as you have mentioned.
Yes.
It's somehow related to some sort of quick reading,
Yes.
as we said, without any problems.
Hesitations.
Yes,
Without
without
the
any
hesitation.
hesitation.
Or without going back. We'll talk about back skipping and what happens when students read and then they go backwards and they go forwards and they go backwards. So I think we're ready to go, Aziz. I think we've got a good working definition.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do this one. Pre-teaching vocabulary. Aziz and I have been discussing in the vocabulary and the comprehension sessions, and all of us know that we should know that there's two ways that we teach vocabulary instruction. One would be the pre-teaching, where we pull out vocabulary that we think it's important for students to know, and one is embedded, where you come across it as you're reading. So I'm just going to throw out some of these words, and let's use this as our first. Take a nice deep breath. I'm going to read through some of this and shortly explain what they are, but then you'll come across it as we go further, and then you'll go, oh, now I get it. So the Tangerine Effect I'll be telling you about later. That's a way of looking up above a line of print to read a line of print. It's a little more advanced, so we'll get to that, but it's exciting. Crisscross method is another way of looking up and down, and I'll show you how to do that with the article. Trifocus is the same thing. We're getting readers to read more than 4 words at a time if they can read that much. Many of them are not reading that much. The average reader at our beginning stages only reads 20 letters or 4 words at the max. So we will get faster with that. Skimming, we're all pretty much familiar with. We skim through an article just to get some quick ideas. Scanning is a little different. With scanning, you're looking for a specific piece of information. Perceptual skills. Today, I'm focusing quite a bit on visual perceptual skills because I'm not aware of any other people. Now, I'm sure there are, but I'm not personally aware of people that are teaching reading today, looking at the visual perceptual piece of the pie. How much can they see at one time, and can we read faster by simply working on how many words and letters we can see at a time? So trust me, this is going to be thrilling. The next words, it's called saccadic in English, saccadic movements, and that's just the way our eyes move on a line of print. After we do our webinar today, my bet is you're going to grab whoever you live with or you know, or you're teaching or your students, and you're going to watch their eyes and see that they don't just smoothly or with fluency read along a line of print. They stop several times, and the more times that they stop, the slower the reading, the worse the comprehension. So we have to turn it around. Echo reading will be a strategy that we use. You may have heard of that. That's where I'm going to read very, very quietly right next to a student or my child. Depending on your COVID situation right now, we might not be able to do that in the classroom, but we can certainly be sitting right next to a student at home and reading with them or them hearing us. Subvocalizing, when we come to that, that's what you don't want. These are the children that are reading kind of out loud under their breath. And when they are reading the words in English under their breath, then that is going to slow them down. They will not remember what they read, and they'll be also going backwards and back skipping. Retelling is a strategy where to boost our fluency, we retell the paragraph or the page several times, and the rate will go up. That goes along with repeated readings. Rate, we've mentioned already. Rate is affected by what we're reading. Fluency, we've mentioned. Regression. Okay, let's put that with eye span and fixation, back skipping. This all goes together, and of course it's tracking. If kids fixate on the line of print, which they do, it's based on how big their eye span is, and we're going to work on that today. If they're back skipping, or what we call regressions, they keep going backwards and they go forwards, that really interferes with what they remember. So these are the words that I want you to be aware of. I've already planted the seed in your brain so that when you see them again, it will start to make sense. Right now, they're just words and phrases on the page unless you have some background knowledge already. So let's go ahead. All right, it's your turn, Aziz.
Okay.
Oh, so beautiful.
We chose a text, and also we chose a picture, and we would like the audience to tell us what they think the text will talk about. So this picture is related to text. So let's start by Fatin or Daria or anyone.
Let's make a prediction or two. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So what's your prediction? What do you think the text will talk about? Just look at the picture and or describe it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the first thing that came to my mind when you said the word prediction is that prediction actually is one strategy of teaching reading, I guess.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I can use this visual to predict or to guess what the text might be about. So I guess this is a ceremony about bride and groom. I guess it's something related to wedding party.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's close.
You can give it away. We're going to a wedding today.
Oh, fine.
Yes.
I want to go to a henna party right now.
Fatin, can you share do you have the link to the text maybe in the slides? Okay. You can share it in the, we will share the text as a link in the slides. It's actually talking about a Moroccan wedding and how is Moroccan wedding is organized, what are the, the celebrations, etc. So this is actually an indicator of, this is a dress. This is what we call al-henna. This is, for decorating women's hands.
Isn't that beautiful? When I read the article, Aziz, I read about the henna parties, and I'm like, this is beautiful. And the henna stands for, let's see, it was about birth. Let's see, what was the other one? Was it health and love? There were three things, I think. This was new to me. What does the henna stand for?
It's
does
a
anybody
type
know?
Of, yes, it's actually a plant, right, Fatin? No?
Yes, it's a plant, a green plant, and we use it with water, warm water, and it becomes very like this. I like it. We use it during our ceremonies for girls and brides, and it's. I think I read about it it is from the Barbarian and the Amazigh tribes, and it is from decades till now, and then it spreads on the north of Africa and Asia, and then even now in Europe. We have symbols here of fertility and love and hope and roses, and it is something symbolic for starting a new life with your partner, something like this.
I just want to mention very
Beautiful.
quickly that the traditions, marriage traditions, are somehow similar. I am not sure about this, but there are some traditions which are similar in Tunisia and Algeria and other
Yeah,
countries.
yeah, north of
Especially,
Africa. Yeah, we
yes,
are neighbors.
yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
That
So
was
this is the
beautifully
text.
explained. Okay. All right.
So,
So
uh,
ordinarily, we would. I'm sorry. Let me just say one thing. We're going to go ahead and work with the article, but then we're going to come back and apply some rate building skills to this article. So I'm going to turn it over to Aziz, then I'll come back on.
yes, this is actually the text that we talked about. It's about
I think I've got some
marriage or wedding in Morocco. So Rita, we can do some reading aloud, right?
Yes, yes. Now, can you hear me okay? I have had some connection issues with all of you. Now it sounds clear. Are we okay?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can see you.
Okay, all right. I had a little pop-up message that said I had a connectivity issue, and I go, not now. Okay, what happens in a Moroccan wedding? We could take a look at the heads and the henna party, the Moroccan wedding during the party. But I agree with you, Aziz. Why don't you go ahead and take turns actually reading this, and then we're going to come back and put skills to it.
Okay, let's start with the first paragraph. You want to read the first paragraph,
Go ahead.
Rita?
You.
No, it's you.
You. What happens in a Moroccan wedding? First things first, when we talk about Moroccan weddings, we don't really mean the wedding vows. This is so fascinating. In Morocco, marriage happens before the celebration. It's a small ceremony called you got to do it, Aziz. I don't want to say the vocabulary wrong. Was it Drib Sadak?
Yes, yes.
How do you
It's,
say that? Okay.
yes,
Wherein
yes.
the groom and bride will sign the marriage contract. You need to go ahead. This was your turn. It's not like kindergarten.
Okay.
Come on,
So,
Coach Mira, this one is yours.
first things first, when we talk about Moroccan weddings, we don't really mean the wedding vows. In Morocco, marriage happens before the celebration. It's a small ceremony
Right.
called Drib Sadak, wherein the groom and bride will sign a marriage contract in the presence of witnesses, typically their family members, and an adul, a Moroccan notary. The festive and colorful three-day affair is actually the wedding celebration, which is similar to a reception in other cultures. So this is the paragraph we're talking about.
That's
Paragraph 1.
amazing. Let's go down to the henna party. The next day is the henna party, wherein the bride gathers her female relatives and friends to have henna tattoos done on their hands and feet. Henna has long been used in Morocco to create intricate symbolic tattoos. They're said to symbolize luck, beauty, and fertility. And then the Moroccan wedding. Pretend you want to read that?
Where?
It's
Moroccan wedding,
okay.
yes.
Moroccan wedding.
So the third day is the culmination of the pre-wedding festivities. On the day of the wedding, the party gathers at the venue and is followed by the groom with his family. Everyone waits for the bride to come, who will arrive in an area, an intricate roofed platform that is carried by 4-6 men and is usually accompanied with the nagafats, the master planners. I just want to mention this is just one way of celebrating marriage in Morocco. There are different ways of doing this, but this is the popular one. For example, in the north we have a different version. In the south we have a different version. So we chose this text because it's the popular way of doing marriage. So we are here, Rita,
Okay.
during the party.
The bride takes off the Amaria. So as I understood it, it's like a covering that the bride is under. So this is where schema comes in. I did a bit of study, but I would need to know more as your student because these vocabulary words that are embedded are new to me. So I'm not always saying them correctly. The bride takes off the Amaria, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And
these
sits
are
beside the
Moroccan.
groom and
This is Moroccan Darija. I will make a star
okay.
on the words that are Moroccan Darija, like this one. You see, there's a little star,
Okay.
and
Okay.
also this one. Okay, continue.
Yes. Okay. Well, then this was so exciting to me. Then the guests come and sit next to them and they take pictures. And then the bride changes from her traditional wedding dress into several outfits through the party. It's unbelievably beautiful to me. Two-part kashida is typically worn, which has a dress as a first layer and an overdress that usually buttons up the front. Okay, during the party. What happens then? We go to the next page.
Next slide.
The couple shares the last dance, they eat the cake, they join the festivities, observe other traditions, and they leave for their wedding night. And then after the party, oh, this is so neat, they lead the party in a car parade through the streets. So there's no standard way to celebrate the Moroccan wedding. Now, did we read every word of this article? No. Everybody just say no with me. No. Did we need to? No, not for our purpose. We wanted to get an idea of what this was about. So now I'm going to teach you some really neat tricks of the trade that may be new to you. So let's go to the next slide. But we'll keep thinking about what we're doing. Now on this slide, I asked Aziz to put this in from my book. Many children read on the bed or on the floor or wherever they are, and that's fine. But for us to be working consciously to the rate of students, I do generally ask them to sit up straight with their feet on the floor. Now, here's something interesting. I want you to start having your children hold up, you can't see me right now, but you would hold up a book. If you're using a book and it's not online, you hold it up at a 45-degree angle, and that will help the student see more print and they will not lose their places readily. I'm going to be showing you on the next slides how to do visual exercises before you start. We do exercise before we go out and exercise outside on a track or in a sport, but I'm suggesting with reading that we also get our eyes ready to read. I'll be sharing with you how you can use your fingers, how you can practice turning pages rapidly, how you can skip little words, stay away from the margins, and still get the gist of what an article is about. There are times we want to read every word because one word being missed could make a difference. But in most cases, when we get to the point that students have learned to decode, or they are automatic reader as far as words and not just word calling, then we're in a good shape to start picking up the pace. Now, I did pick up my metronome today. I noticed I needed to charge it, and that I'm not going to do, but I'm going to suggest if you don't have a metronome to help kids actually click out a beat to their reading, you could use a pencil or a chopstick, and you start slow and then you can get faster. So we're suggesting that we use our strategies until we master them, and we practice reading faster and better every single day. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
Okay. So is this sound manipulate the pace of our movement? Will this interrupt with students' comprehension for text reading? What do you think?
No, it's going to help. By the time we have practiced our exercises, you will find that they're automatically going to be reading faster and they will understand more. Right now, when they're stuck at a word calling level, because they're decoding, they're not automatic yet, then their comprehension is down. And the more the kids go backwards, they read forward and go backwards, they don't remember what they read. And so we're working on
You are
helping
talking
them
about
remember.
regression.
Yes, yeah, that's about regression. And so that's a fabulous question, fabulous. Okay, and we want to take questions as we go. And then if you have questions after, when I do write up a vlog about our session, I'll hit as many questions as I can, okay? On this page, we're only looking at numbers 2 and 3. And again, shortly, we will be going back to the article to actually practice this. I already mentioned these words, and you probably know them. When we skim through reading material, we just zip right down it. But if we're scanning, we are looking for a specific fact or detail, and that's very different. All right, let's go to the next slide. We'll practice. Okay, we're back to the wedding, but I need to go to the slide first about practicing the rate builders, Aziz.
Yes, this one.
No. We're,
Before this one. Yes, this one.
wait, I gotta get to the right one myself. No, we just did that one, skimming and scanning. Oop,
Okay.
where did I go? All right, we want the one that says, it says rate building practice, and it's got the eye exercises.
Okay.
Somehow we got out of order. That's okay. Keep going.
No.
Nope. That's okay. Keep going.
This one. Oh,
Oop.
can you move a bit?
Wait, I just lost it. Ah,
This one.
almost. Go up. Nope.
These are
Almost
all
there.
the slides.
That's the one. That's the one. Okay.
Yes, okay,
So can we go
yes.
back to that one? All right, there we go. No, that's not the right one. Oh my goodness. I need the eye exercises.
Really?
Where'd they go?
I don't think it's in the presentation.
What?
It's
What's
there.
we can?
I don't think that
It's
it's
one
in
about
the
the eye
presentation.
exercises.
Yeah, these are all the slides. You see,
Yes.
Did we lose one?
read it. This is read it faster. Practice.
I need that one. Yeah. Is there
This
one
is the
right
one?
before that? Yeah, that we're going to do that one. Yes, that's a trifocus, but there should be one that's says learn to
I
read,
don't
read to
think
learn at
it's
the
there.
top. Oh no.
It's
Okay,
not there.
let me
Yeah.
see.
Okay, no problem. We can.
It got left out. All right, that's
we
okay.
can-
What I will do is I will have to do it. I'll do it with the article. If you just put the article back
Yes.
up, I'll teach you without
Yes,
the
with the
slide.
text. Yes.
Things happen. It's okay. That's not going to work though. That one. Okay, we can do it with that. All right. So Aziz, is there a way that they can also see me again so that I can show how to do these things?
Yes. We can.
Back
You
up
can
there.
stop share and focus on.
Yes. We can stop sharing and focus on you.
All right, there we are. So I'm going to show you some things, and I'm not sure what happened to our slide. It was there yesterday, but that's okay. Things happen, don't they? All right, so what I want to start with is the idea that before we start reading, we do eye exercises. So follow along with me. I'm going to start with number 1, and I'll make sure that you get all this when I do the follow-up. Okay, so you can use your finger. I want everybody to put a finger. I know it sounds silly. You can do a finger, or you can do an unsharpened pencil or a pen. I don't want
Yes.
kids poking themselves in their eye. But what you do to get your eyes ready to read is you bring it in and then you take it out. And then you bring it in, take it out. What is that doing with your eyes and binocular vision? What do you think is happening?
I guess when
Does that
we
help?
put the pen closer, we like have some blur on our vision, blurred vision. Yes.
Yes, our vision gets blurred.
Yeah, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that our eyes are working together, and people don't think about that. To be able to track along a line of print, they have to be able to have binocular vision. Their eyes have to be able to work together. Okay, now I'm going to have you do something else. I'm going to have you just take your eyes and go sweep the room. Go to the left, go to the right as you face me. It could be either direction. Okay, so you could really see a lot, couldn't you? So now put your fingers up like this. All right, everybody do that. Now, when you put your fingers up like this and you soften your gaze, can you see behind you? Can you see other things? Just say yes. Yes. So if I move my fingers like this, can you still see your fingers and still be seeing things out there peripherally? Yes, right? How far could you go looking at your fingers and still being able to see other things? Quite a ways, couldn't you? Could you still do this? Could you still do this? Then why are we reading one word at a time? If there's such a thing as an average, the average reader only reads like 4 words or 20 letters at a time. And that's not enough to remember what we're reading. So I've just made a point to you that we can see more at a glance. Okay. So that try focus.
So we can see more and we can read more. That's the purpose of this exercise.
Yes, this is where the visual perceptual skills come in. And when we go back to the article, you're going to be just blown away at the differences of what you can do. When you put up the slide that showed the 3 dots across, this is called the trifocus. And that idea is that you teach students to read the stars. So you'd be reading boom, 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 boom. I could do it with a metronome, or I could tap it out again with a chopstick to get them used to the idea that they can read faster than what they thought. So it's called trifocus.
How many words do you think can students read using this technique?
Endless speed. Well, I read a couple of thousand words a minute now. The average speed reader reads 900 plus words a minute, but you don't need to read that fast. What we're just looking at is having kids being able to read fast enough that they don't forget what they read. And we don't want them to keep going backwards. The back skipping is what really takes a lot of time from the reading, and then it slows them down. The more times you see a student's eyes landing, that's called the fixation, landing on that piece of print, the more fixations in the line, those are the kids that read word for word for word. And then if they're going back skipping or they're regressing, then they come back and then they go back and then they come back. Those children do not remember what they read and they're word calling. I'm going to stop for a second and ask, have you experienced this with your students? Mm-hmm.
So they need using this technique, students or readers, they need like to speed up and slow down at appropriate places in the text.
Yes.
According to their comprehension. So they don't have to be very quick or very slow. So it depends on their pace of learning.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, because we can start this right away with children once they have basic phonemic awareness down and basic word recognition, that automaticity piece. If they're not at that level, then this is a little bit different. But even so, as you're starting to teach them, you don't want the kids to keep stopping and going backwards. Do you see that with the children now? I'm sure you do. Do you see it in Egypt with your kids? I'll bet.
Yes, they do that.
See it in Tunisia? I'll bet.
They keep fixing on certain words and take their time.
Yes.
And sometimes they get back. They do this.
Right. So then they go backwards, right?
What's really strange about this? Yes. What's really strange about this is sometimes when we read big novels, Victorian fiction, for example. I like to read the big novels. Sometimes we do this sort of regression. We go back to certain words because we like this expression, but it's not a good habit, I think.
Well, if they do that, then there's no way they're going to pass. Well, personally, I don't like fluency tests anyway. I think that they make kids get really nervous, and all of a sudden you go in the hallway with a teacher or another room and you take a fluency test right after school starts and you haven't been there for a year and a half. Pretty scary experience, don't you think? And I know that many children get placed in Title I programs based on those fluency tests right off the bat, and that's not necessarily the best informal assessment or way to see what a child will be able to do. And I don't believe in fixed grouping anyway, or ability grouping. We should be continually grouping based on skills known and unknown. So that's just my personal.
Rita, you
belief.
mentioned phonemic awareness,
Right.
which is really a great terminology when it comes to reading.
Right. We start with the phonemes, absolutely, and then phonics is right in there. Look, there's in the science of reading right now, they're looking at the main focus just being on phonics. Well, not that that's the only thing. And we've gotten away from balanced literacy more than we were, where we were reading and knowing phonics. It was everything. I still use cueing. That's been kind of thrown out right now, but cueing still works too. Does it look right, sound right, make sense? My position is that you have to have a huge amount of things that you have observed in your teaching that work for you. And if they're already working, you keep them. What's not working, then you go, oh, maybe there's one more thing. And really, if we didn't know that kids need to practice with visual perceptual skills when they're starting to learn to read or getting to read better and faster, if we didn't know that, then we would just constantly be saying these kids are not achieving at their grade level. And that's not a good thing. I don't know what a grade level is right now. What's the third grade reader right now after being out of school a year and a half? We've got, all different levels. So I hope that answers your question on that. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go back to the article, and I'd like to apply skills with the article now. If we can get that back just a Okay, now that we have the article back, what we see. Now, first of all, the line that says, what happens in a Moroccan wedding? I want you to soften your gaze, and I want you to look at the white space. And when you look at the white space above that line, and then below the line, what happens in the wedding, and you start reading white spaces down the line instead of the lines of print. This is a very advanced skill, and your students may not be able to do it yet. But
are you talking about these white spaces?
Yes, I am. Isn't that amazing? That's just a whole different way of reading. Am I suggesting we do this with brand new beginning readers? No. Am I suggesting as along the way, it's something to practice for fun with the kids and see what they think? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So now let's do something different. Let's talk about that tri-focus or three focus. So if you can show on the slide, Aziz or Noah, how we would divide that, say in threes, either in our head. No, the same where we were is good. Yeah, okay. In your head, could you see that page divided, say in threes? So if we were to read in phrases, what would we get, say, for the first phrase? What would you get if you were looking at thirds? So you're going bing, bing, bing across a page with your eyes.
So we read in chunks. We read first things first.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
When we talk about Moroccan weddings, so we read and stop and pause.
Right.
If we apply this strategy, right?
Right. So with the tri-focus or reading in thirds, seeing this like you were seeing the stars, you can take a paper. This would be a paper, not like a worksheet, but just a paper that the kids could divide it up so that they could practice dividing the print into thirds. It's an effective practice strategy. And I'd like to stop and ask for a comment whether you think this would be useful for your students.
Well, the first third is the first part is okay, but when it comes to the second and third, it's a little confusing.
Okay.
Why?
No, I can see the first third, but the rest is just one chunk.
Okay. Well, then that's how it would work for you. So how would you teach the kids then? would you do 2s or 3s? There's no right or wrong.
2s.
I'm asking. 2s.
2s are better for beginners, I think.
Yes, I
Okay.
think so.
Well, that's what I think you should do then. Remember what we said? If you're doing something and it's working for you, keep it. But I'm suggesting that we need to get kids used to reading more in phrases and larger chunks. If they're only reading one word at a time and then they keep going back, then they're not going to remember, and it certainly won't be smooth, effortless
Would
reading.
it help for me to give them the text a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, little spaces so they can see the thirds. Then I can close these
Yes,
spaces piece by piece.
that's a good
Exactly.
idea.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a terrific idea. Okay.
So do you mean you should like leave spaces where they should pause in the text, right? No?
Yes. You
Yeah.
can do it. You could even do it as a worksheet. It would be very,
It could be a whole line, not just the phrases as it. It could be a white line, a white small line between so that divides the page actually to 3/3, and then I can just
Oh.
narrow these lines until they disappear.
For example, we can show this on the text with annotation.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you please show this on the text with annotation?
For example,
Terrific idea. That's why we're here together.
so I can, for example, this is a picture of the text, so I don't have enough, but I can,
Yes.
yes, like this. This will be white, of course,
Mhm.
like that. So there are, you see this text
Mhm.
is divided into, the whole page is divided into 3.
Choose.
Yeah,
So,
and I can give them text like that, and then for a week or something, then the next week I can narrow these white spaces until they disappear for in the 3rd week.
Absolutely. That's a terrific idea. Terrific idea. And that's why we're
maybe
here.
we can start. You can start with the choose,
Uh-huh.
and then when they get confident in their skills, you can add the 3rd line.
And then how long do we do it? Is this something that we're talking about we'll keep doing forever? No.
No, I think a week, if we're reading every day, and they are using they get to use just to have the page or to visual the page in 3 parts, and then even if I remove these white lines, they can still see the page in 3 parts for about 3 weeks. I think it would be enough.
I think that's terrific. Now, what if we added a repeated reading to this? So in the repeated readings, now that's not a new concept. I didn't make it up. It's been around a long time, but it's very efficient. It works. And it also works really well if you have kids students keep their own charts so they can see how much faster they went. The idea of the repeated reading is you pick about 150 words. It could be as many as you want. But you pick that out and the student reads it out loud, and you hear him or you hear her, you hear the student read it. And then they do it again and you see how many words. Actually have them count the words. And so when they get faster and better at this, all of a sudden you're going to see maybe they only read, say, 20 words the first time. So you have 20 on your little chart that you make. And then they read it a second time and maybe they got 50 words. And then the third time, maybe they got 80.
I actually do this. I have a piece of rating. I give it to the children. I ask them to read it every day with time and time themselves. And they compare the time at the first day and the time at the last day. They read the same text.
Yes. And it works, huh?
Yeah, they become a lot faster.
Okay, so that's one of the ideas that it's been around forever, but not everybody does it. So
You guys are creative.
Hmm?
You are creative.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel, you know? If there's something that we're doing and it works, like I said, you keep doing it. And that's one that has been around a long time. Repeated readings really works.
So Noah, if you did the same text, do you change the questions or keep the same questions? What's your strategy?
Actually, the reading text I usually give it without question at all.
Oh,
Right.
After the questions come after the week, after the whole week.
Oh,
Then I
the-
start, yeah. But
so
I
the-
focus mainly on reading and getting and
Oh.
them understanding it.
I see, I see. Questions sometimes impede reading speed.
Well, this is just one of the things we're talking about. Maybe we should stop for a second and discuss what is the difference between fluency and then rate building. The hint that I've given you is that the more that students work with rate, adjusting their rate to the purpose of what we're reading. For example, I speed read a lot of technical journals and materials, but when I'm reading a novel at night, I don't speed read that. I just really savor the words. So this is for a specific purpose. But what is the difference between fluency and rate? There is a difference, and we want to make sure that we're clear on that. So when we define fluency, how is that different from rate? They're real close, but not the same. We'd like to jump in on that. Don't all speak at once. No, do you want to go ahead? It's a good question, isn't it? Most people talk more about fluency and they don't talk about rate.
What do you mean by rate?
There we go. Rate is exactly what you were doing when you were dividing it up. Rate is how fast we approach the material. The fluency is how well we read it with automaticity. We know the words and we read it with expression, without being halting, without reading a word at a time. It flows. But when we look at rate is how fast we're going to read it. Are we going to approach this material more slowly because we don't know it? We'll do book blocks. We will be making predictions and then reading to find out. We'll be summarizing. There's a lot more that's going to go into it. But at our first point today, we want to be fluent readers, and then we want to keep getting our rate to go up so that rate will generate better comprehension. It's really as simple as that. So I hope that's a little more clear. Okay.
It's how fast we are fluent.
Yeah, basically that's it. You made it very easy to understand that. That's a very good expression. Okay. Anybody else want to add? Again, I can't see an audience today, and I can't see any of your questions.
So
but
rate is just no. There are questions and comments on the.
Okay. Is there anything else I should be stopping, or we should, as a group, be responding to yet?
Yes, I just want to mention quickly there are yes. There is somebody here who is talking about reading fast without paying attention to pronunciation rules.
Okay,
The
right.
sounds and
Right. Well, that's where fluency comes in. I don't want to see kids attempting to learn speed reading at that point if they're not fluent in that they are not automatic readers. The original definition was automaticity, meaning that the students knew how to decode or unlock words. I do not use the words word attack ever. We do not attack words. We decode or we recognize words. So it's word recognition or it's decoding at the beginning. Okay, was there another question?
okay. So there's also Hassan said that how can I read and don't translate? So you know that you know EFL learners read and there is some translation process going on in their minds.
Absolutely,
So
and that would affect
it's a little
your
bit disturbing.
Yeah. Well, it's like me when I was in Spanish classes. Absolutely, you're thinking. Now, for most of you, you're fluent in both languages. I'm not. I'm not fluent in Arabic and English, and you all are. So you're automatically translating, aren't you? Can you see it all in both languages all the time?
Yes, Fatin, you want to talk about this?
I think that translation maybe for the first 2 or 3 times, but then when you repeat things, this translation stops at the end. It becomes just reading.
Yes, yes.
So which language are they thinking in then?
English. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, they
All
start
right.
translating in the beginning, but when they
Okay.
read the text repeatedly, this translation stops.
You're talking about advanced learners, right?
No, they're not advanced. As I said, when they read it the first day, the second day, the third day, they are translating, and this translation gets a little less and less by the with each time they repeat the reading.
So repeated readings is a very, very good strategy for our second language learners then.
Yeah.
Okay, because then from what I hear you say, then I hadn't even thought about this. I love teaching with all of you.
So we talked earlier, I talked with Rita, we discussed this about the idea of, creating questions. You know that most
yes.
or a lot of teachers give a text with comprehension questions. But I think it will be better if you ask them to create the questions, like
Right. When we did,
questions: why, what, who, why, when, how.
oh yes, when we did
Because
the comprehension workshop, we did
control the text, right?
Yeah, we did the practice, definitely. And again, I'm limiting only because of our time today.
Yes.
That we can't go back and do the prediction and questioning and all the strategies that we use. Today, I limited it to how could we get our students to see more perceptually, to know more about the mechanics of English, that an A is an A, even if it's in a different position. Arabic is read from one side to the other, English goes from the other side. But even so in English, an A as a capital is still an A, depending which serial position it's in. So it's much more limited focus today. What we're doing, we're working on something that I never see done. If it's done, I just don't see it, where teachers stop and say, let's take a look and see why this student is reading one letter at a time, one word at a time, when clearly this student can get more. But if they're not used to the idea that their eyes can see more in a glance, every time an eye stops on the page, we call that the eye stop or the fixation, that's normal.
Yes.
Again, watch someone reading. Their eyes do not just go straight, tracking along the line of print. When they're tracking, they are automatically going to be stopping. What we want to do is get less stops in and get more words in at a glance, because then they're going to read faster and they will remember better. The more they go back.
Fatin, do you have a comment?
Maybe
on
that's
this?
why we pre-teach new vocabs. Because
Yes.
this is mainly the stops of
Yes.
the eye. The stop at the unusual vocabulary.
Yes. Words that are unusual stand out. The funny, it makes me laugh to say it, but it's called the von Restorff effect. And that means that what's unusual stands out. So when I see words that I don't understand that are in Arabic, and I always stop and ask Aziz, because I don't have the skills yet to be able to better decode. I think that I do, but then generally I'm not saying it quite right. So this is the same way as all of our children that are second language learners. What you said just absolutely makes sense. And that's why we started with a pre-teaching sheet. I knew that you wouldn't remember all those words, but the minute that I did that one piece of paper, just showing you, or one slide, these are some of the words that we're going to come across. Then when I mention those words, they start sticking in your brain better.
Fatin, do you have a comment on this?
Actually, they do stand out even when I pre-teach them. Oh, that's the word. They stop. they don't continue.
So let's hear from Fatin. Do you have a comment?
Okay, so
because they're right. This is terrific, Sharon. Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, so teacher in a primary school, so I teach English as a third language here, and my students are dealing with English for the first time. So it is we are talking here about translation. Now we try to use gestures, TPR,
TDR.
sounds, miming, yes, songs, anything,
Total physical response.
flashcards, yes, flashcards, flashwords. I try to make them think in English, not in Arabic or in French, and translate it. Okay, this is the first thing. Another point is the place. When I move my students to the garden of our school and we read in an open space, they can concentrate more than being in a lockdown or between walls. Okay,
Closest space.
closed space, yes, good. So I think here at the space and maybe the more oxygen and the green and the green trees and the sounds of breeze and butterflies, it can stimulate them to be very eager to read and
Yes.
to concentrate. I'm trying just to here to think about students who are struggling with dyslexia. So it is
Yes.
very important because we have 1 of 5 students who are suffering of dyslexia, and it is reading for them. It's a real challenge. So
Yes.
we have to start from the phonemic awareness and
Yes.
it's
We
a
have a
long
topic.
process.
We have a
Yeah,
topic coming
good.
on dyslexia
Yes.
next
But
month. Great topic.
another point here, I'm trying to motivate my students to record themselves while
Yes.
reading, okay, and they can hear their voices and hear the and even me, I'm trying to do this exercise because we exercise our mouth muscles, our eyes, and our brain muscles, so we can record our readings, and from time to time we will listen to our voices and our intonations and our pronunciations. It becomes as if we are learned from our errors. Okay, so this is one of my
Yeah.
tips here. Okay.
So there is a
That was
question.
fabulous. A
There is a
fabulous
question from
stuff.
Hisham.
Okay.
He
That
said,
was great.
"How to memorize the most important ideas in a passage?"
I'm
Why
sorry.
should
I didn't understand that. How to?
he said, "How to memorize the most important ideas in a passage when we read a passage or a text?"
Skimming.
He's talking about memorization.
I'm not
Maybe
remember.
memorizing vocabulary or expressions. That's
The more that we use vocabulary, the more readily that the students will know the word. They need to have an emotional connection to a word. There has to be either repetition, emotional connection, or it has to be colorful and unusual. Novelty stands out. We can also, for the beginning readers, emerging readers, we can use configuration cues or clues where we, I can't show you, like the word monkey, some of the letters are higher and some are lower. So I use every trick of the trade, every hack I possibly have in my teacher toolbox, so to speak. We're not looking at teaching them to memorize right now. We're looking at them being able to decode and recognize words using strategies that the teachers have taught them. And then they will be applying, so it teaches for transfer where they can use those same skills with other reading material. That's where fluency comes in. It becomes an automatic. Okay, is that an appropriate answer there? Do we have another answer? Anybody else? That was a great question.
Maybe you know how you want to intervene.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a couple quick things here. This is a little different, but just stay with me. If I'm taking my eyes and I'm going from corner to corner, this is called a crisscross technique, okay? When I'm looking at new material, it will help my brain get a picture before that I start my reading. So I have my eyes go from the upper, it can go either way, but I go from the upper left corner and I let my eyes just roll down to the bottom corner right. And then I'll go up to the upper right and I'll go down to the left. Now, when I do that right now, some words stood out without me saying that we really read it. I like everybody to take a look, go corner to corner with your eyes, just corner to corner, and see if words stood out. If I was in the classroom with you, I would have you put these down on the iPad or on a piece of paper, or we'd put it up on a whiteboard.
So you mean reading just the first word in each?
Just a crisscross, just a crisscross.
Crisscross.
Okay.
Yeah.
What words stood out? And you didn't read this word for word. We didn't read the whole thing, but just doing a crisscross with your eyes, because we already had an idea what it's about. What stood out? One word or two. Who got a word?
Mean.
Yeah, first, colorful, beginning.
Okay.
Okay,
Celebration.
tattoos,
Celebration.
festivities, first. And then the other side, I had festive, accompanied, beauty, platform, and layer.
It's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time when I was taught this at the reading clinic at Arizona State University, when I was working on my master's there, I'm like, this is really weird. Are you serious? And then I started to use it when I taught all the secondary credential students, and then I taught K-12 credential students. And I did it with all of them, and they absolutely love using these techniques because it's different for the kids. And they go, whoa, that really works. And I'm also having them draw words as well. And we might later be singing those words or moving to them, dancing, whatever. All right, now we did a crisscross looking at the corners, and we saw that this is a little different way of looking at rate and building our rate and our fluency. What if I said that we can super dip, and we are going to this time not look at corners, but we're going to let our eyes just skim, not scanning for specific info, but skim, but we're going to dip. We're just going to go straight down the middle of the page as quickly as you're comfortable, just reading down the middle and see what words stand out. Don't look at the sides at all. Just super dip down the middle. Okay, when I did it, I got 3-day affair, beginning of a new chapter, henna party where the bride gathers. Then on Moroccan Wedding, I got culmination of the wedding festivities. During the party, I got where the bride takes off the amaria. What did you all get?
I got Moroccan weddings. Actually, the wedding purification. This is strange. Pre-wedding festivities.
It's different, isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
it's totally different. This is like a psychological game. Everyone
Yes.
receives different words.
Yes, yes. And we don't have to like every one of these, but one will stand out and we'll go, I can do that with my students. And I really love it. And Rita, I just can't believe what difference it made. Okay, so anybody else want to add what you got when you did a super dip? That's just
what's the purpose of this exercise when you read the middle? It's
again, it's just getting us used to the fact that we can read. I can read upside down. I can read backwards. I can read forwards. I can read thousands of words a minute. For me, reading is a game. It's like to someone else doing a crossword puzzle, or I'm not good in math. I'm sorry to say I'm not a mathematician. Somebody who really enjoys working with logarithms or a math strategy. This is the fact that there's many ways that we can get kids to read better and faster but we need to start thinking about the box, getting out of the box. Because if we're in the box, the only thing that we probably do is have kids read a lot of books, because that builds fluency. We know that they've got to be reading. That's an automatic, to themselves and reading to us, and to reading partners, or reading at home. They
Yes.
need to be reading. But that's a simplified. And just saying that we need to be fluent automatic reader, well, that's great. I'm taking us above and beyond into a new dimension today. And so it makes it very exciting that there are things that we haven't ever heard of before, maybe, or done before. And one thing might make such an enormous difference that we go, why didn't I know this? But I'm so glad to know it now. So that's the point of having different things that we can do. This is a very, very effective, efficient way to get an idea of what something's going to be about before we ever sat and read it.
Yes.
Two,
So
How long do you suggest that we do these exercises with students before they start reading normally?
as long as you want. You might just do it once. You might do it every day. You may say today before we start to read. Now, normally, as Aziz and I have practiced, we made our predictions. We did first of all, we attached to our schema. If we didn't have schema or background, we built it. Then we did, it's very traditional. We made predictions. We guessed to see if we were right. Then we read to find out if we were right. What did we read? What did we get? That's very traditional and it works. But what I'm doing is taking you above and beyond today. What are some things that may have been missed? These are not traditionally taught in a reading course online, because people don't know this. They don't know it. The idea to me that we need to be teaching children or young adults, whoever your students are, that there's more than one way to get at reading material, period.
Yes, and it makes sense, because when they do this, they kind of get a firm control of the text. They manipulate the text.
Yes.
They know how to speed up their reading, how to slow down, how to, so they control the pace of their reading.
Exactly. So we said we might crisscross to get an idea what it's about. We might dip all the way down. All right, now I'm gonna ask you to do a scan for a piece of information. So here's my question. How long do the new brides, let's see, I gotta say this right. How long do the new brides go for their visit to the sauna in preparation for being married? Look, scan for it.
How long? Can you repeat?
Yeah, how long do the brides visit the sauna in preparation for being married? It's only one piece of information.
Which paragraph?
Okay, so now I'm going to give the class a hint. It's in the second paragraph. If they still don't get it, I'll say, okay, look at the third line. There you go. All right. All right. Who'd like to give us another question that we could scan for? Aziz, do you have one?
How many days the festive lasts? This is easy.
Okay. Okay, who's going to chime in? Did you find it? All right, then give the class the hint, Aziz.
Yes, is in this paragraph.
Is it 3 days?
Yes.
Okay, now what do you do if the student is wrong and gives an incorrect answer? What do you do then? How do you scaffold it?
Maybe
narrow it down at the
ask
last
another
part of the
question.
paragraph.
What?
Narrow it down. It's the last part of the paragraph.
Exactly. Are we looking to have students be unsuccessful or successful? Successful. All right. So what do you think about that strategy? I like it. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you to follow with me. I'm going to teach you one other really cool thing. It's called author's pattern. If you have one
Author's pattern.
author's pattern. Now, if you have, we did
Yes.
this comprehension, but I want to add it here. If you have one author, then most of the time the author puts the main idea in the same place. The author may put the main idea each time in the first sentence, okay? Or the author may put it where it's all details and then the main idea is at the last sentence. Sometimes an author puts a main idea at the beginning and then they repeat it at the very end. If there's more than one author, this strategy generally is not effective because it's not going to be a consistent pattern. So if you get a consistent pattern and you want to pick up the pace, the fluency, and the rate, what would you do knowing an author's pattern? First, you have to teach the students to be able to find where the pattern is, right? To say yes. Yes. So in this article, where do we see, or do we see this author having a consistent pattern where the main idea is? Once we know that, we can speed it up by reading just those things. All right, Petra?
Yes, to my own understanding, most of the paragraphs, I think the main ideas or information are put at the very beginning.
Yes, I agree. There's more details. All right, so as quickly as we can, let's go ahead, use our eyes, and let's just, yeah, that's a good way to do it. So very quickly, let's go there, and then we go there, and then we go there, and then we go there. Now let's go up to the top again and do the same thing, and let's go ahead and we'll read those. So first things first, can we go back to the top? Okay. All right, now would you ask the students then to read that out loud, or do you have them read it to themselves? Or do we choral read where we read it together?
They should read it for themselves.
That's okay. And how else would you do it?
If you ask them to read the text aloud, maybe there will be a problem of classroom management.
Okay, I'm going to suggest, again, there's no right or wrong what we're doing today. So I'm going to suggest this, since we already know, class, that this author wrote the main idea, the first line each time, let's go ahead as a class and choral read it out loud. And let's just do that just for fun. We'll just do the first one. Here we go. I better hear everybody. Okay, here we go. First things first. When we
talk about Moroccan weddings, we don't really mean the wedding vows.
Okay, we already got an idea, don't we? Let's go down to the third one, the henna party.
This one.
And we move. Yeah, okay. Let's go, class. So we know that the first line had the main ideas. So let's read that one out loud together as a choral response. One more. Here we go. The next
day is the henna party, wherein the bride gathers her female relatives and friends.
Okay,
the only one reading.
I know you guys speak now, but that's okay. So you get the idea that at this point you've read the main idea.
So it's there is a pattern, right? So
yes.
The first paragraph. So the idea is in the first paragraph, at the very beginning of the paragraph.
Yeah. So
it's not in the middle. It's not at the end.
No, it's the main idea. You were correct. Was at the beginning. Does that mean that the details aren't important? No, we still want to know details. But if we're looking to get an overview of an article or to review something that we read in text, and most likely we're talking nonfiction here, info text, we get a really good idea just by reading the author's pattern. Isn't that cool? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I think
yeah.
And this is also helpful. You know, sometimes when you end the reading activity and you would like to wrap up the session, you ask students to use a graphic organizer to summarize the text. So if they are aware of the author's pattern, this will be very easy for them to locate the ideas, the main idea. Yes. Details, the supporting details, and the concluding sentence.
Bingo. Absolutely. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. We go back to the pre-teaching of the vocabulary. Hopefully we'll have that in the correct order.
Teaching vocabulary is yes.
Yeah, there was that. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, here we are. So let's take a look at that and let's see if we know some of the words. Tangerine effect, we looked over the print. All right, what about crisscross method? What was that?
On the upper right corner, and then you go down to the
This one.
Excellent, excellent. What's the tri-focus? Tri meaning three. So what's tri-focus? To read the stars.
Let's try focus. There are 3 parts. The page is 3 parts.
Right.
Like you have mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation.
So the idea was that we're teaching kids to read in phrases instead of one word at a time. And the phrases can start small, but then we want them to get bigger because what's our idea? The notion that if we could see our fingers way, way out, you know, put our fingers up in front of our face and keep moving them. And if you could still see peripherally to the sides of the room, there's no reason why kids can't see more print at one time. They do not need to read one word at a time as long as they can decode it. Okay, so that was a great idea. All right, skimming. We know about skimming. How would you define that?
Reading rapidly in order to get a general overview of the text.
Yes. Would you skim before, during, and after? Yeah. Yeah, again, there's no right or wrong here. Now, what's the difference with scanning?
We're looking for
Skimming is getting into details, finding more details about the text.
Right. Yeah, we're looking for a specific piece of information. How did your thinking change today, or did it, about perceptual skills in reading and working with fluency?
What was the question again?
How did you change today? What did we learn about perceptual skills and why it's important to work with perception and the mechanics of reading?
To speed up the process of reading.
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
rate.
Rate,
Right.
yes.
Yes, to improve our rate.
Right.
Improve our rate, yes.
Yeah. Am I incorrect having taught so many reading courses, but have any of you been taught anything about visual perceptual skills before today as part of the
It's the
class?
first time.
No.
Okay.
For me, it's the first time.
Thank you, God, for helping me.
It fills my imagination here.
Brilliant, really. Thank you.
October is a big month for me. Every day I thank God I'm still here. Okay, Catic Movement. Okay, so that's all tied in with fixation and eye span and regression. It's all tied in. So let's put that together. So that means stopping on the line of print. And this was actually in about 1879. A Frenchman by the name of Javal, J-A-V-A-L, was the first one to notice that people do not continuously read along a line of print. It doesn't happen. They stop. And those are called satic movements. And they're also called fixations or eye stops. So what you're looking at with your students now, you won't be able to stop doing this. I know you're going to be contacting me about this. When you're watching everybody read now, whether it's at home or wherever school is for you now, you're going to see that the children are not necessarily reading smoothly along the line of print. They are stopping, and we want to get fewer eye stops and larger perceptual skills. We want them to be able to see more at every eye stop. I just think it's amazing. It just blows me away. Okay, what happens? What's about regression or back skipping? Those are the same thing. What does that mean, and how does that affect fluency and reading rate?
Regression, when you go back maybe to certain words or expressions, you don't continue reading, you keep stopping and going back.
Yeah. So how does that affect comprehension?
You usually forget what you read.
Thank you. That's it. Okay, let's go on to the next slide, the KWL.
Okay, let me.
Your turn, Aziz.
I want to clear this. Okay. So, we started with the KW. We asked the first question: what is fluent reading, or what is fluency? And then we will focus on the two, the L and W, what I learned and what I want to know.
Okay.
So what I learned a lot of techniques. I learned the importance of read. What else? Also the importance of teaching those techniques to students gradually, not in one time. So we need to start with baby steps. For
Yes.
example, the trifocus, which is I discovered also that it was done by many teachers like Noah. That's surprising because I have never done it with my students.
Well, that's the idea. We want to reinforce what we're already doing. That, like I said, if it's working, you keep it. But if you got one really great new idea today, I'll be thrilled. I will be following up.
It's a whole new perspective for me, and I'm really eager to apply it to my students.
You are already applying it, so it's maybe it's
No,
you are doing
just
you are doing a good job.
the mechanical part of reading and it's just the visual, using this visual ability of my students. This is new to me. It's a new aspect, and I want to look at it more and explore it more.
So you are talking now about what do you want to know?
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea. Some things we get validated and we're like, boy, I already knew that, but I didn't know the name of it. Or we go, I've never heard of that, and I know that this would be really useful. I need to know more. Nobody knows everything. There's nobody that knows everything. We all have more. We always said that kids learn to read, and then they read to learn. What I've added over the years is that we learn to read, then we learn to read better and faster. We are never done with our reading.
Yes. So that's it. That was
Anybody else
really...
have anything else on your LW from those that are at home watching?
Yeah, the new approaches here, the crisscross and the trifocus, I'm very excited about it. It's my first time here with these new approaches. Thank you, Rita, for this, and it's like it fires my imagination here. Okay, so thank you, and I want to say here that fluency with our young learners. I want to focus on their self-confidence here. It is vital. Yes. It is very vital to have this desire and solid tips to help them. I learned many things tonight, especially about this vocalization here and the echo reader, because my echo reading, because my students want just to repeat, and when I ask them to read silently, they can't. They keep moving their lips, okay, and using their fingers, the index fingers, to read. And it's very, I think it's very common between children, and I encourage them to have their own strategies and their own techniques here, okay? So I want to thank you, Rita, because it is very amazing tonight to learn from you and from all the team here. Thank you.
Well, I want to say one thing that you said that's okay. the children that are using their index fingers for right now, that's fine. You don't have to stop it. That's good. That's going to push them. That'll push their pace. Also, you can be using a ruler underneath or an index card, whatever you have, to let it slide down like a tachistoscope. That's fine. That's just like when we used to be told you shouldn't count on your fingers. Forget that. You need to count on your fingers. And there's no problem with them using their finger to point along the line of print until they get their tracking down. But what you would want to do then is maybe tap it, to get them moving faster. So I could start real slow. Can you hear that if I do that with a chopstick?
Yeah.
And if it was my metronome, then it'll go really fast. And you could be doing that with the trifocus practice as well. These are just practice ideas to get kids thinking that there's fun things that we can do that will work on our reading. But I'm really glad you brought up the finger pointing, because I'm a teacher pointy finger person. There's nothing wrong with that. Do you want them to do it forever? No, especially if they're reading word for word with that same finger. No, that finger's got to move faster if they're going to use the finger. That sounded kind of funny. I'm sorry. If we don't laugh, we will. Okay. That was
really an awesome session. So Noah, can you move to the next one, please? So this was wrapping up the reading. So
and we know what that is. Thank you, Aziz, for all the time that you spent with me planning this. No one would ever believe all the rehearsal we did and all the planning. I don't know what happened to that slide, but we did fine without it. So I just want to remind you that there's more to reading than what we've been taught, okay? And the more that you study the field of reading, the more that you will know the beauty of what we're doing and the importance. Every child can be a great reader, every child. And I believe all kids are gifted anyway. So there you go.
So a little virtual applause for all these amazing educators.
And for you, Aziz,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you so much, Noha and Fatin. That was really an amazing session. We learned a lot from this session with all the discussions from Rita. Rita is actually she's modest. She's an expert in reading, but she's just modest. We learned a lot from her tonight, and from the interventions and the comments from Noha and Fatin and the other educators.
It was a great team. I had a wonderful time, and a reminder that you will be getting a link. Now you've got to give me time to write it, but I want Aziz, I'm going to pretty much give them the notes that I gave to you for our background as we were studying. I think it'll be really important. It will reinforce for everybody some of the words and some of the ideas. And looking at fluency is vitally important. As long as we're going to keep testing kids on fluency, not my thing to test children on fluency. I want them to love reading, not be freaked out about testing how fast I could read it. Even my own granddaughter came home the other day and goes, "Boy, I did so well on my fluency test." I'm like, "Well, great, but let's go read a book." That's, I don't want to be limited because of a level. The kids are not about levels. Kids are about reading what they want to be reading, and then we
absolutely, yes, absolutely. So thank you, Fatin. Thank you, Noha.
Thank you, Aziz. Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much, Noha. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and see you later.
My heart is yours.
So.
I love you all.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye. Good
Bye.
night.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Here we go.